Tobias Tom, and I'm a web developer for about 15 years now, and I've come to the conclusion that I most likely will not tell you anything new today, because that's not the idea of the talk. The talk is about giving you ideas about how we might think about our environment and how we all could strive to make it better. So right now we are building tools, and we are trying to make the most complex solution for a problem. And it was not always like this. So in the beginning we had like really simple building blocks that were created to build the web as we know it today. So it was quite easy because the technology was so simple to learn, to share, and especially to collaborate on, because it was just a simple file you usually shared, and if someone would like to help you out or explain you something, you just would share this file and everybody would be able to help you. So we had all these well-separated blocks which helped us to do that. So obviously everybody here, I assume, knows HTML. And the concept was really simple. So we created a simple static file, and we used some program to upload it to a server. And it was available for everyone to read. So it was even accessible, it was responsive, we could resize a browser window, and everything would be working fine. And it was quite fast because there was no technology involved in the background. It was just a static file that was delivered, and there was nothing that could make this much slower. And the next building block we have is like CSS, and the idea is just to create consistent pages and not to write all the same stuff again. If we want to have like a header designed in the same way, we just use CSS and we are done. But especially in the beginning, we kind of used it in a more or less wrong way, because we wanted to make it as easy for us as possible. And for example, like painters do, they have a specific frame and they want to design for this. And that's quite easy to do because you have fixed boundaries in which you can work. And so we kind of used the technology in a wrong way or in a not optimal way. And this had many drawbacks. And today we are all about responsive web design and how we can build for all the mobile devices and different screen sizes, which was kind of built into the CSS from the beginning. And there was obviously JavaScript, so we can create interactive pages, and we can load stuff from the server without reloading the page. We can even do like this two-way binding stuff with variables and loading stuff from the server. It's quite a big technology right now, but often we kind of rely on it, and if it fails, almost nothing is there. Maybe even the content is no longer there. And the broad concepts of HTML are gone, because if you don't see the content and nobody can read it, so why did you share it in the first place? And if you're building all these JavaScript applications, it's kind of easy to remove all the accessibility from it. And so the intention of the web we had in the beginning, like everybody should be able to read our content and we want to share it, was gone. And the last building block is kind of like a quite big one, which is the server-side languages. And the idea we wanted to achieve with this was to create like product catalogs with about 30,000 products, for example. And obviously we don't want to create static files for this. So we made our life easier, we created a language, and we could use it. But often, especially in the beginning, it was that we might not really know how to do that most effectively. So we had like millions of database queries, or the queries itself were not really optimized that well, or maybe even the web server was configured in a wrong way that we just not thought about, or which we really did not know about how to do it properly. So we had still, since the beginning and still today, we have great opportunities with all these simple technologies we still rely on today. But there's also a lot of potential to do something wrong if you don't really know what you're doing. And so in the beginning it was like a small thing because there was not so many moving parts, and if you needed help to create something with JavaScript, it was quite easy to ask someone, because obviously almost everybody know everything and all the moving parts. So it was quite easy to get help. We were all sitting in the same boat and we could all learn from each other. And it was not really that separated like it is today. Today we have all different kind of jobs and everybody is focusing on just his stuff or her stuff. And so maybe we are kind of losing the big picture about all this, the simple things we are used. There were mature tools because they were not that long in development, but many people were working on them at the same time, and different people were using not that many tools, but only some tools. And if you have more users for a tool, obviously it's well tested, maybe even by automated tests, but more even by people who are using that, giving you feedback, asking common questions, and you can enhance your tool based on that. And it was not that common, but obviously if there was time left, because it's kind of like always the drawback about writing documentation, which obviously most of the people seem to think is a boring task, but if you only have 5 tools to manage and 5 tools to document, it's obviously easier to document these as if you have 20,000 tools and there are new tools coming up every day. But the simple things were not easy enough anymore because we needed to do better things and we needed to get more professional about it. Because if we tell someone that a webmaster, we are a webmaster, it's not kind of like that nice thing to tell anybody because, okay, the little cousin of my neighbor can do it, so being a webmaster is not that nice of a job title to have. And so all this technology stack advanced and we created new languages. Now we have even JavaScript on the server. We created Go, Rust, we started new technologies. Databases itself were not really that good enough for us, so we created NoSQL, which is a nice solution and a nice tool to have, but maybe it's not always the right tool for the wrong job. And we even got new job titles, so people were not only webmasters anymore, we have backend developers, front-end developers, and we have database engineers, we have people that only, the front-end operators that watch if everything is going well and how we could enhance it. So these are all decent jobs you really should have in a technology stack which you're using right now. But the one thing I will come back to in this talk is that we are again losing the big picture because someone is only focusing on the backend, and it's easy to blame someone else that the website is slow because I'm doing the front end and I'm doing the best job in the front end, so the website itself cannot really be that slow, at least not because of my fault. So we get the specialized developers, I would like to call them. They only do the thing in their niche, and they're really, really good at it because they can focus on one job and they can focus on doing this job really well and learning each and every day to do new stuff with this job. But with if people get to more niches and only do the thing they do, we have obviously less developers in this part because not everybody can do the front end and not everybody can do the back end. So if we have like a small project, we don't have 5 developers working in this specific part anymore, but we have only 2 or 1. So it's kind of hard to get the knowledge which all the people inside the team have combined together, because I think it's important to get people to share their experience and to share the knowledge they achieved in the past, because everybody has different experiences and different experiences. So what we really don't get with this is like discussions about things like, okay, we are doing this in the front end and it's quite a specific task to do, but would it be better if we change the backend at some point? But usually this step is not really taken because the front end developers are focused on their job again, and they have a specific time frame in which they should create the best solution. And it's the same time pressure with the backend developers. And so they focus on building their stuff and not really talking to each other about how they can improve the complete solution behind all that. And what you also really don't get is, if you have a team of JavaScript developers doing something in the backend, usually they will do the same job with the same tools. And if you get a new task and you should, and your job is to create some websites, you usually will fall back to the old tools you used before, which is a nice thing because you have experience with it, but also it might not be the right job for this particular task you are trying to solve. And it's quite hard for a team to discuss new ideas and to get people to develop themselves further and get new solutions into a team, because everybody is kind of like busy doing their day job and not really trying to evolve for the team. And this specialized developers I was talking before kind of resulted into a bigger, in an increased complexity with all this stuff, because today almost nobody really understands what's going on, for example, behind Docker. We just trust the tool to be able to do the job for us and to just install one software. The claim is that you build, ship, and run any app anywhere. And you have to trust this tool to do the job. And I even doubt that it's really run any app anywhere, because Docker is a solution for the Linux operating system. And I myself, I develop on a Mac OS, and I have to use a virtual machine to simulate the Linux. So it's not really on the Mac OS. Usually on the server, the teams I work on are using FreeBSD on the server, and there is no Docker as well, because we cannot just port the current Docker system into FreeBSD. There are systems, there are projects that try to build something like Docker, but then you have to make a decision again. Do I want to use FreeBSD or do I want to use Linux? And I really cannot change the moving parts later, because I just made the requirement for this team that we always have to use FreeBSD and not in the future, for example, change to Linux, because we made the technical decision about that. And it's kind of like the same thing with all the simple tools. Like, okay, we'll just use a build tool to do our job more effectively, and a tool chooses grunt or a tool chooses gulp to manage and run the tasks. But you still have to think about all the dependencies and about all the pressure you put on your project. So if the grunt team or the gulp team, whichever you choose, chooses some direction you don't really like for your project, you kind of end up in writing all your code base, which is just to run some scripts to a system, to a new system or to a changed system. And the same thing with picking Thus or Less or CSS. Today we are getting back that we only want to use CSS and not really use any other tools. But we still make a decision about all this, and the only thing I'm saying is we really should think about why we do pick it, not only because we know Thus best, we should use a tool. And it kind of not really stops with software, because there is even one greater piece to this. Specifications are written by humans as well, and they're doing a really great job, but they still try to solve their problem for their niche, and maybe they are not really talking to the people outside of this focus group. I, for myself, think that Service Worker is a pretty nice example for that, because it's a great technology. So you can run a script in the background of a website, and this can do awesome things like sending you notifications or providing you an offline version of your website and only downloading the new content, which is quite effective. So I really think these solutions are really great to use in the future. but they come with drawbacks, and we are making the barrier for the especially for new developers, quite high, because if you want to use Service Worker, you have to have HTTPS running, otherwise you will not get it. And so setting up SSL is kind of like really not an easy task. And again, there are tools that are coming to help you with this. For example, this Let's Encrypt. They are trying to give you tools which you have to trust, which you will rely on for no matter what time we define. And they will help you to create all these things. But if you don't understand the systems behind it, how can you make sure that they are doing the right job? And you always have to update, you have to rely on the maintainers to update their software. For example, if Let's Encrypt will just create their software today and they will not maintain it because not many people use it in the future. Maybe they will stop maintaining it, but you decided to use this technology, and in the future you have to use a new tool, which might stop working at some point again. And let's not even talk about security updates. I assume the Let's Encrypt guys will do an awesome job, that they will fix possible security issues quite fast, but do you really know that all the solutions and all the dependencies you use in your project do the same? Did you ever look into your project structure, which kind of NPM modules you all install, and do you know what they are doing in the background? Do you know that they are secure? And if you're blindly updating these systems, are you sure that you are not putting more security risks into your own products or into the products of your clients? And this tool thing, I think it continues all over our workplace right now. So HTTP2 is a great thing because it will increase the performance of all the websites we deliver today. And luckily, we can get away with some of the tools we are using right now because we don't need to put all the CSS files into one file. We don't need to minimize the JavaScript and all this stuff. But we are still relying on tools again because HTTP2 is a binary protocol, so you really cannot look into it and see what's going on behind the scenes. So if you want to look into it, you have to use a tool. These tools need to be maintained. Again, if you only have 2 people or 3 people working on this particular tools you are using to debug all the new stuff you're doing with HTTP2, what happens if they lose interest? Maybe they want to go more into the native direction, and they just want or they think HTTP3 is a better thing to, or a new thing to do, and they stop working on the HTTP2 version, the version for the HTTP2 tools. So who will maintain these software then? Do you trust that someone will pick up the projects where they left it and continue to do it? And so all this is not really only a one-way street, because we are increasing the complexity and we are solving this all with tools, but we are also going the other way around. If you look at the NPM package repository, at how many different packages you have that will be able to create, write, or read zip files. You have about 20 projects which try to do that, and which one do you pick? The one with the highest version number, but maybe it's not maintained for 2 years anymore? What happens if the author of the project you are using right now will not continue to do that? And why do people start new projects in the first place? Because they want a solution to their problem. And the idea with this is nobody created a tool you wanted to have in the first place, or you did not really bother to read the documentation or read how the tools really work and make them work for you so that you could collaborate on this project, but you just create a simple solution for you. You publish it to NPM, and you kind of contribute to all this cycle that we have more and more tools that kind of nobody really sees through which one is the right one to choose and how they will be there in the future. I'm just here standing, not to telling you something new. Maybe you know all of this stuff already. But I think, obviously, we have great talents in our industry because we are creating great solutions. For example, the service worker again. It's a really great specification, which we really will be able to do awesome things with. But I think we should focus more on getting people talking together from different backgrounds and not only let the JavaScript backend developers sit in one corner and the JavaScript front-end developers in the other corner. To get the most effective solution, we should enhance the communication between them. And that's kind of the point, because the communication was never easier. You can talk to anybody all over the world. You can chat with them, you can audio chat, you can even use video. They could be more or less sitting next to you. But we usually don't do that because we are still focusing on all our projects we have, and we don't we don't look at projects which are not really in our focus right now. And so you don't really have to have the backend developer for some technology sitting right next to you. You can talk to him no matter where he is sitting. Maybe he's sitting in Australia, but you really don't mind, because if you know someone who you can ask and you are trying to help the system itself, I think we should really focus more on bringing our industry to a better level of communication and collaboration, especially, than just focusing on the next client project or focusing on our next startup, because we are relying on open source software all the time. And we really should not take it for granted that there are some solutions which we can just use and not really make sure if we really can trust them. There was kind of like a different example to this. On a usual basis, I use, for example, 5 projects, 5 package managers during a usual month. They were all for different solutions. There was, for example, NPM, of course. There was Composer if you would like to use PHP. There was Homebrew if you want to install a package on a Mac. There's PKG, which is to install packages on a FreeBSD server. And there is CocoaPods, which is for Objective-C and nowadays Swift to use different libraries inside your iOS application or macOS application. And they all itself are working quite nicely, but they all have different advantages which they could all benefit from each other. For example, NPM is like a centralized system. There is only one server, and if that, or only one service, and if that one fails, you're kind of out of luck, because you will not be able to install all your NPM packages because they are no longer available. In recent days, they started to create this software which you can install on your own server, and you can have a proxy for NPM packages. But after all, they are selling this to you as a product. And if they don't think they would like to develop that further anymore, because they did not have enough customers, which made this investment worth their while, maybe they will just stop it. And what will you do next? CocoaPods, for example, is something else, because they are relying on Git. And Git is, for example, distributed by design. So you can put your packages wherever you would like to put them. And you're not relying on one central entity to host all your stuff. It's the same with GitHub. I'm not saying GitHub is a bad thing or NPM is a bad thing, but you should really think about the requirements you're putting up on your team, which are possible to fail at some specific point. And if you really want to make a fix to your solution, to your website, to your application, to whatever, in a short time frame, but NPM, for example, is not right there, and you didn't implement an NPM proxy before, how will you install it? And how can you fix your software? And how will you prevent your customers from being exposed to the security breach? And I think we are not really making enough out of our skills we obviously have. And I think we really should try to get more involved into all the things and not really think inside our box, inside the system we are using on a daily basis, but more communicate with different things to get everybody in the same boat again, and make the internet maybe a little bit smaller place again, so that we can see the picture and talk to different aspects of our things, of our technologies we use. I think we should merge our technologies again. Like, for example, these package managers all of them doing a great job, but is one of them like the best one to use? No, because they all have their drawbacks and have their advantages. And I think if we plan more upfront and ask other people for their experiences, if the NPM guys had talked to the guys from PKG, for example, or they had talked to the guys from CocoaPods, maybe they would have made some different choices, that they have a distributed repository. But we didn't, because we are just busy to fix our things and fix our projects and create our own ideas. And we did not really invest the time to research what other people already did spend on this particular task. That does not mean we should have only one package manager for FreeBSD, for macOS, for NPM, but we really should learn from each other and see the big picture again, because if we don't see that, we will end up with more niche solutions, and everybody all over the different parts of our industry will make the same mistakes again. The PHP guys will make the same mistakes as the NPM, as the Node.js guys, and the Ruby guys, and if we all still continue to develop our own solutions, but talk to others and combine our knowledge, I think we would be in a better place after all. And last but not least, I really don't think that things will things will change if we don't really do anything ourselves. And so we really have to get thinking about all this stuff, and maybe I'm wrong, that is a valid argument to make, but I think we all should think about our own case, and if we can agree with some of the words I just said, and start talking to people and convincing people that there is a point to make. And stop complaining, which I'm doing in this talk a lot, because I really think we really need to talk about this, and you cannot really make an argument if you're not complaining. But we all should really start to get back together and start working together again, like we did in the beginning. Thank you very much. Questions?
Any question? I have one. Sorry for being late, but we had a meeting. How much of these problems, I don't know what to call them, can be considered the problems of a young industry, and how much actually it's by how human beings are? So I mean, how much guilty are we? So we are not guilty because, well, at the end it's a young industry, or actually we should be more proactive and try to change things and complain again with you. Again, I agree with you. Sometimes it's what you need to do.
I think indeed we are quite a young industry, and that we really should we should really make mistakes, and we should try new things, and in the best case you really should try new things each and every day, and you should fail every day, because otherwise you will not really learn anything new. But I think no matter if we are a young industry or not, we still have some grounds which we can build on, and we should not really throw anything away which we had in the past, because obviously not everything was wrong. Otherwise we wouldn't be in this place right now, that everybody wants to use the internet, wants to work on the internet, and wants to create things, and it's really easy to do so. So I'm just thinking the argument about that we are a young industry is not really valid if we just use it as an excuse to satisfy our own goals and our own selfishness, maybe. No, I think there is not really a big discussion to be made about this right now. I think everybody should be honest about this and think to themselves. Everybody should think about the decisions they recently made, and think if they, all these things considered, would have done the same decision. If they did, maybe they did the best decisions they could, and maybe there is no better decision to be made. But I'm just warning people that they really should think twice about putting some requirements and putting some choices on the projects which they might not really realize how big they are. It's not that easy to install a package and that's it.
Another quick question. You, in your slide, there was the web is or is becoming a platform, which is not necessary. What is your definition of web? So if it's a platform, it's a medium, what do you think about the web?
I wouldn't describe the web as a platform. I think that the people start calling the web a platform is kind of like an excuse, because the platforms are like Apple did their platform, Google did their platform, and now the web needs to be a platform as well. And we are trying to compete with something which we not really have to compete against, because all these things can work together. You can have a native application, but you have a great, if you have a great API to your solution, you can still use the same API with all the web stuff. And I don't think the web is really a platform. You should just use the right tool for the right job. And I'm just getting the platform argument from other people, and I don't think we are. The web is like an open thing, and everybody can work on it. It's not a competition, a direct competition to Apple's platform or to Google's platform or whatever platform is out there.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay.
Thank you.